Wagwan squad. Today I'm going to show you how to make the best Jamaican gizzada you will ever have and show you some tips and tricks to get excellent quality crust. Gizzada is simply a tart made from shortcrust pastry stuffed with a spiced coconut filling. A lot of people mention that they have a hard time getting that crust just right. I will show you how to easily do everything from scratch and how to get that flavor packed Jamaican pastry. The first thing we will tackle is the filling. For that I need coconut. I'm making this gizzada from scratch, so I'm going to get a dry one, but you could use pre-shredded coconut flakes. Sweetened or unsweetened are both good, but you would have to account for the sugar or a lot thereof when preparing the filling. A dry coconut like this is a lot of work, but the flavor you get is superior to processed coconut flakes. I'm using the back of my cleaver to break it up. You have to be more careful than I am being right now here, because that coconut can really cut you. Next, I'm going to remove the meat from the shell. For safety, I'm using this blunt dinner knife so I don't injure myself. Using a tablespoon is also good, but no knives with an edge, not even the dullest ones you have. The drier the coconut, the easier it will be to remove. This is actually the first time I'm making gizzada. Growing up, we always just bought it from the peanut man. He would always have a variety of drops, gizzada, grater cake, and a variety of roasted peanuts. It's funny how everybody who sell these things in Jamaica is called Nutsy. Every Jamaican is supposed to know a Nutsy, and Nutsy are usually Rasta. Or let me know about three. So yeah, that's how I always got my gizzada, but today I'm going to make it. Again, please be careful when breaking up the shell, because it can give you a nasty cut. The darker outer part of the coconut flesh can be really hard and not digestible, no matter how much you cook it, so I'm going to use a paring knife to remove it. It's not always removed, but it does make a noticeable difference. Next, I'm going to give this a good wash and get everything clean. Coconut for gizzada filling is usually grated, but blending it is so much easier, so I'm just going to slice them smaller so they don't choke my blender. We want some ginger in this. I washed this thoroughly. Leaving the skin on here isn't a big deal. Next, I'm just throwing everything into the blender, and I'm adding just enough water to cover and blend. We will be reducing the liquid, so don't overdo the water. Grating the coconut will give us a more fibrous texture, which can be nice, but I prefer the time and energy savings from just blending it. Next, we add to a pan. This is going on medium heat to reduce and cook the coconut. The filling will take around 45 minutes to reduce, depending on how dry the coconut is and how much water you use. If you are using desiccated coconut, the packaged pre-shredded stuff, you would need very little to no water, because a good amount of cooking already happened when it was being processed. This has been cooking for 15 minutes. I'm going to spice it up now. Grating about a teaspoon of nutmeg. Gizzada filling should be nicely spiced. Next, add about a tablespoon of powdered cinnamon. Pour in about 2 tablespoons of vanilla. I'm just eyeballing most of these ingredients. There are so many different ways to spice up the filling. 1/4 teaspoon almond extract. This is strong, so use less so it doesn't overpower the other flavors. It should be subtle and just barely noticeable. You want to add in a conservative way and taste and adjust as you go along. Next, I'm adding in 1.5 cups of brown sugar. I'm adding in 1/2 cup increments only because my 1/2 cup measure was already in the sugar container. If I was using the sweet desiccated coconut, I would have to reduce the amount of sugar for the recipe. Only using just enough to bind the shredded coconut when it's reduced. As I mentioned earlier, shredded coconut will take far less cooking time, so you would have to adjust for that by reducing the water, or skip it altogether. That needs a pinch of salt. Salt really brings sweet dessert items together. Ensure you taste and adjust spices, and bear in mind that this will reduce and the flavors will be more concentrated. Alright, so we can let that simmer down and reduce while we work on the shortcrust pastry. Shortcrust pastry is pretty simple, and there are just a few things you have to remember. It's made from flour and fat at a 2:1 ratio. I'm using 1/2 pound all-purpose flour and 1/4 pound butter. Ensure all your ingredients and equipment is cold so you can chill them in the fridge till you're ready. Next, rub out the butter and the flour until it has a breadcrumbs consistency. This might take a few minutes. After that, add half a teaspoon salt. You could also add a tablespoon of sugar to your shortcrust pastry, but I like the contrast I get without it in a gizzada. Next, add ice cold water gradually to the flour butter mixture. We want to keep everything cold. Add just enough water to bring everything together. Use a tablespoon for better control if you're not confident in your pouring skills. Keeping the dough cold prevents the butter from melting into the flour and gives it that signature crumbly texture. Mix until all the flour is hydrated and everything comes together. Careful not to overmix though, because that would make the dough tough. Yikes, I didn't rub out all the flour properly, so I guess this isn't a proper shortcrust pastry dough, but let's see how it goes. I'm going to wrap this up and place it in the fridge till I'm ready to roll it out. Always keep your shortcrust pastry cold for the best results. Alright, let's check in on the filling. That's really coming together. This needs a few more minutes. No, this isn't typical, but I really want to double down on the coconut flavor, so I'm adding half cup of coconut milk. It will lighten the color for a while, but it will darken again. This smells luxurious, and that coconut is cooked and tender now. Just going to let it reduce some more. When it is close to done, you will notice it's getting stickier and shinier. You're going to want to taste test that and ensure all the flavors are just right. Remember that reducing changes and concentrate flavors, so you always want to undershoot stuff like sugar, salt and spices. You can add more close to the end if it's not enough. So all the water is gone now and it's fairly sticky, so it's done. Alright, let's give that shortcrust pastry some attention. It should be fairly firm, fresh out of the fridge, but still pliable. You want to be quick when handling the dough. It gets really sticky as it warms, so you want to dust the dough and work surface with flour properly. It's an easy dough to roll. It doesn't snap back like a yeast dough because there isn't much gluten development. I've made shortcrust pastry in an older video, plantain tots, but instead of 50% butter for the dough, I used 25% shortening and 25% margarine. Still a total of 50% fat. Shortening helps to make the dough way more crumbly. I should have done this before I started rolling, but I'm dividing in half so it's easier to work with. The next half goes in the fridge. Roll it out to a couple of millimeters thick. It should be thick enough to hold its shape when we form the Gizzada crusts. I'm using this mug to cut out circles because it's a perfect size. Bowls and cookie cutters also work. Shortcrust pastry needs to be kept cold for the best results, so I'm going to place these in the fridge and grab the next half of the dough from the fridge so I can roll it out. It's important to work quickly, especially when the dough is this thin because it warms up much faster. Shortcrust pastry is super versatile and used for both sweet and savory items. It's used for pies and quiches. It can be used to make cheesecake crusts, tarts, and crumbles as well as empanadas, just to name a few. Knowing how to make a good shortcrust pastry is a valuable and easily attainable skill. Get all the extra trimmings together and ball it up. This is going in the fridge to cool down. It's also very important that we keep the dough tightly wrapped so it doesn't dry out. Next, let's move on to making the Gizzada shells. The technique here is fairly simple. Place the index finger of your left or dominant hand close to the edge of the circle and pinch with the other hand around it. Rotate the dough slightly and repeat the pinching until you have your Gizzada shell. I've also read that Gizzada is called pinch around for this very reason, but I don't personally know anyone who calls it that, not even Nutsy. After doing this for a while, it will start to get intuitive. Still have to work quick because the dough will warm up much faster now, especially because we're handling it. That's a decent looking Gizzada shell. I'm going to do a couple more. If the dough starts to get too soft, just place it in the fridge and grab some cold ones. I am going to blind bake the shells before I fill them up, so I'm placing them on a lined and greased baking tray. Blind bake just means we pre-bake the crust without the filling. These might puff up while they bake, so use a fork to poke some holes so the trapped air can be released as they cook. Another thing you can do is fill them with uncooked rice or other grains to weigh down the center. My oven is preheated to 350 degrees and I let these bake for like 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, remove them and let them cool enough to be handled. Grab the coconut filling and let's fill them up. A dinner knife is the perfect tool for this job. Really stuff it in and smooth off the top. A big benefit of blending over grating or shredding is that you get this finer texture that spreads easily. Now I've had gizzada that were really hard to eat. Coconut stuck in my teeth and I had to do a bag of chewing just to get through just one. Not fun one bit. I don't think I did too bad for a first attempt. I usually do at least one recipe test before I make a video, but this is fairly easy. I didn't have to, so you know you can do it easily too. These need to go back in the oven at 350 degrees for 20 minutes. 20 minutes later, these are cooked, but I want more of that color on the edge, so I'm going to use an oven broiler setting to caramelize the coconut some more. Yeah, see it there? I place a maraschino cherry quarter in the middle for a little visual appeal. These are nicely caramelized on the top. The crust is really nice, but it's flaky. Flaky because I didn't rub out the butter properly. Can't really call it shortcrust pastry, but that flakiness actually works. I love it. I have some extra dough left, so I made this. I found out after the fact that Trinidadians make this and it's called a coconut tart, similar to Jamaican plant tart. I simply roll out a big circle with the dough, filled it, fold it and cut it with my pastry wheel. That's really flaky. This is so good. Thanks for that, Trinidad. I caught the flu while doing this voiceover, so I might sound away in some parts of the video. Thanks for bearing with me. This was real fun. Drop a subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you in the next one.